What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to talk about the overall market and give you guys more information about the recession that a lot of people are talking about, break down if we're in a recession, how I think this is going to end up panning out, and then give you guys more views about what this means for the stock market, because a lot of people believe the stock market is just going to crash when you least expect it. But before I break things down all this information, let me just say a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner. Take nothing I say as financial advice. And then don't forget to smash the like button. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. But anyways, looking at the market, I want to show you guys something very interesting. When you look at SPY, this thing continuing to break its all-time high, and there's no sign of this thing starting a very, very big downtrend. There's no sign of a crash on the charts, in my opinion, and there's no sign of this thing breaking to new lows. If you look at the weekly chart on SPY, just check this out. How many of these weeks were green? How many of them were red? Almost none were red since November. Almost every single week, this thing has been continuing to pump. And that's despite the fact that we're seeing a lot of shorting that's been going on SPY every single week. There's so many more puts expiring. Like this past week, for March 1st, we saw over or almost 950,000 puts, and we saw just under 230,000 calls. It's absolutely insane. It's insanity. People are continuing to expect some kind of crash, and it's not really panning out that way, is it? So when everyone is shorting the markets, everyone is screaming crash, 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 crash. What happens? This is what happens. The market keeps going higher and higher and higher, and it could continue to do so for a while. Now, does this mean it's never going to crash? The answer is no. There could be a big reversal, a very, very significant pullback, even a small potential correction, even a crash if you want to go that route, if we get the catalyst. And once I believe a lot of people start turning a lot more bullish, once a lot of people start realizing that this market just keeps going higher after months and months, I do believe it's possible. Now, what could fuel this? It could be all sorts of different things we don't truly know. But I just want to focus on the chart and kind of just like focus on the more like medium to short term before we turn more bearish or do anything like that. And I think it's very important to do that. So, what do I see happening right over here? Let me just note that the UK slipped into a technical recession already. All right. This also happened to Japan, and they're two very important economies, especially the UK. Every time the UK hit a recession, or almost every single time the US also entered one, but correlation does not mean causation. This does not mean the US has to enter one. But historically, this does favor the US entering one eventually. But right now, when you look at our economic data and such, we're not really showing major signs of that quite yet, especially because the labor market is not really contracted to the degree that a lot of people were hoping for. So, from the way I see it, I think the US has a high probability of entering a recession because of the high interest rates and once things start breaking. I think the interest rates are hurting some industries such as the EV sector and many others, but it's not really as evident right now. And I think that it may be a lot more delayed than a lot of people are expecting. That's why the market is just continuing to rally. They're getting ready for something very big. Now, when might the recession come? I don't really know. It could take another few months. It could take another year. It may not happen until the end of this year. It may not happen until 2025. But regardless of that, it doesn't excuse me, it doesn't really matter as much, at least trying to predict it, because it's impossible to get everything correct. But trying to bet that eventually it's going to happen and there's going to be this big crash, it doesn't make sense. Okay, the GDP numbers came out not too long ago. They were quite decent, and we just have to wait and see. Please remember one more thing, and this is kind of like a very, very tricky lesson. Data and the word recession is a tool. It's a tool. They use this data to pump the market. They use the data to dump the market. It's used as a tool. They can manipulate all this data that you see, whether it's the CPI data, whether it's the unemployment data. I really believe that. Now, what does this mean? Well, if we were to enter a recession and they don't want us to actually be in one at that time, they could always just move the boundaries, say, oh, we're not in a recession right now. We're changing the way things are calculated. We're changing the way that, what a recession is defined, right? Remember, we almost entered one a couple of years ago, but they didn't consider it one because we didn't get the high unemployment spike, which is technically not how things work, but they tried to change the definition just to protect, you know what. I'm not going to get into the full details about that. So there's a lot of manipulation involving recession. And when the time comes, when Wall Street and these big institutions want to get a big drop, what they're going to do is they're going to create a lot of fear when the time is right. A lot of fear, and they're going to be unloading as this thing reaches its peak. And then they want to get a lot of retail to start selling much later, so it might happen quickly. But I do want to let you know that the trend right now is not showing that. The trend is not showing a big crash because of a recession right now. And there are all these people on YouTube who are posting videos over and over again. The crash is here. We're going to crash every single week. Look at the S&P 500 every single week. This thing has been just continuing to pump since November, nonstop. And there's no sign of this losing it. Okay? For us to be in a crash, I want to see the MACD turn red. It's not red right now. It's still wide open. It's still green. It's hilarious to me. So be very careful. The market is still bullish. Might retrace a little bit, get a little temporary pullback, but then we could still bounce and go even higher again. Right now, I don't think that these big institutions are ready to crash the markets, and I don't think it's going to happen yet. I think that we need a catalyst and we need to see any changes that happen and we need to see the charts turn. We need a list of different factors. We're not getting them yet. So I'm not really worried about that quite yet. Instead, what I keep saying every single week is instead of following the trend, instead of doing anything else, everyone is just trying to short the markets. Watching these YouTubers who make who knows how much money, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars every single year, just screaming about the crash. If you keep screaming the same thing every year, you're eventually going to be right. But they get views, they convince people to start shorting the markets, only for the market to start squeezing and screwing over more retail investors. Do you guys see this? So I'm telling you right now, this chart is still bullish. We could pull back a little bit, grab more liquidity, and they might just try to continue to push it. That's what's been happening for the last few months. There's no sign of it stopping yet. We're entering a new month, so typically during new months we do enter new cycles. So are we about to reverse? We could, but where is the confirmation on the chart? Where is your confirmation this is going to reverse? We're not there yet. So if we do something like this, let me show you what a reversal is. It's so simple. You don't have to overcomplicate any of this. If we're ready to reverse the trend, you need to see SPY do something like this, establish a lower high, fail to break out, try one more time and just continue to sink like this. That's when we could turn a lot more bearish. And if we do downtrend like this, right? Let's just say this is our next like channel that develops. If we get a break from this channel and we fail to break this high up here, we fail to break this top up here, and we just continue to downtrend, this is your sign that this thing is getting ready for a bigger downtrend, right? Once you start making a lower high and you start breaking down. If SPY, hypothetically, if this thing were like pushing the way it did last week, and we stopped at like 509 or we stopped at 508, that could have been the start of a downtrend. We didn't do that. This hasn't happened yet. So why should we turn into big bears quite yet? Look at the chart. Let me zoom out and show you, right? Higher high, higher low, higher high. We did break this low, but then came back up for a double top, came down, we made a higher high. We broke this high again, higher low, higher high. It's still uptrending. And it has this interesting pattern for the last couple of weeks where we got this little pump, right? We come down a little bit, then we pump. Come down a little bit, we pump again. Come down a bit, pump, break the high. Come down a little bit, pump, break the high. Maybe we come down a little bit and we'll watch and see if it tries to do the same thing again because that's all it's been doing. Okay? So I don't see a reason to turn into a big bear just yet. That's my honest truth. Just yet. I want to see if we get a big rejection, if we get any changes. The weekly is still strong, so let's just wait until we get like a bearish weekly candlestick and then watch for a confirmation week for the next week, right? You want to see 2 weeks to get your data. 1 week where we look like we're going to turn, the next week we need to see a follow through move. I don't see that on the chart. So the chart is still bullish. The market is still strong. We just have to wait and see. Why is the market strong? Because the data that's coming out is not really reflecting a recession quite yet. I know the data is manipulated, but if they want, they could manipulate data however they want to trick as many people as possible. You have to know this. And then they could make money by pushing the market up anyways, and they could just screw over people to get them to think something completely different or make them think a completely different narrative. It's all manipulation. It's all a game. And they make money doing that by watching retail investors. That's how the stock market works. It is rigged, but that does not make it impossible for retail investors to win. There are still lots of profitable retail traders out there, and you can still learn a lot by learning about risk management and things like that. But let me just be clear with you, there's no stock market crash right now that's truly started. Right now, I don't see it. And we have to wait and see. Is it about to start from here? Well, how would you know that? Because people were saying it was going to start at 500. It was going to start at 505, 510. Now at 513, it just keeps going higher. It does not make sense to make that call just yet. So no matter how convincing people on YouTube sound, ask yourself, who are you going to listen more to? The guy like me who's been saying the market's going to go higher, the guy that said there might be a little retracement and a bounce, or the people who say any sort of retracement we get is a crash? That is your choice. It's up to you to decide. You do you, guys. Anyways, that's it for the video. I wanted to make this one very, very simple, very, very short. I want to keep the videos kind of light on the weekends, and I'll be a lot more serious for Sunday. One good piece of news for Supermicro, which is very bullish, is that it just joined the S&P 500 index. Great news for Supermicro. We could be seeing this thing continue to push. It's actually exploding in the after hours. If you look at this, it's actually approaching 1,000. It's going to hit the 1,000s again. So look for a big push. We'll see how it reacts to 1,003 and then 1,080. So very close to 1,100. I do see it pumping more. So get ready as this bullish news has come out. But besides that, I'm going to like kind of save the others for later. I want to make one more video about trading, and then I'll make more videos later on. And on Sunday, I'll be making a lot more videos, or at least one video about specific details on S&P 500, Tesla, AMD, and everything else like that. So watch for that coming out on Sunday. All right. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, and peace out.